So my last speaker, our last storyteller, is. I'll wait for my family. Okay. Is Deborah. But it sounds very weird to say because, in all transparency, this is my auntie Deb. I don't call her Deborah. And I wanted to share that because my auntie Deb is the last and closest thing I probably have to a mother. So I saved her for last. And another reason why this is the theme of tonight is because my auntie called me like, you'll never take me nowhere. I be seeing you everywhere. And so we went out to dinner, all the way out in Chagrin Fall. We like back in the woods, wandering around. And we get to dinner and she starts, and maybe I should rephrase it. You ever feel like you know everything you need to know about someone, and then one night you learn that extra thing? And we were at dinner and I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I've never heard any of this. And she was like, oh, girl, yeah, let's get another drink. And I was like, blown away. So we're going to tell a little bit of that story that blew me away at the restaurant in Chagrin Falls on a dark night today. And I think it is one of the most moving stories that I have close to me. And I want you guys to hear it. So let's welcome my Auntie Deb. Or Deborah. I don't know. Which one do you want to go by? Deborah?
Auntie Deb.
Okay. I tried it, but okay. So tell us about your childhood. Where did you grow up? Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Kissimmee, Florida, 1956, November 19th. My biological mother was Ruba Mae Baker, and my father's David Baker. I never knew my mother. My mother passed when I was 2 months old, and my father was killed when I was 6. So then we came along. Well, we stayed with my grandmother, and her and my grandfather got of age, and they couldn't care for us anymore. It was 5 of us children, and I was the baby. And then they put us out to the family who wants to get these children, okay? And my uncle and my aunt adopted me and my sister that I was next to, the 4th child. And the rest of them, they would spread it around to other family members. And my oldest sister, since no one wanted her, since she had a baby at 16, she wound up getting married. So we came here to Ohio. I've been here 60 years now. And I lived with my aunt and uncle until I was 15. And then my aunt died, okay, she was my mom, okay? And my dad really couldn't take care of us. He didn't know how to take care of 2 teenage girls. I was 15 and my sister was 17. So here's how I got into the family. And we were members of St. Teresa Holiness Science Church.
Mm-hmm.
And
so can we pause?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so because she about to tell y'all the whole story. Okay. So it's a banner here when you come in, and it's a little faded, but on each of these note cards, when you turn to the light side of it, you see like a woman in the background. So the woman in the background is my grandmother, who was actually born on they have the same birthday, my grandma and my Auntie Deb. And my grandma is, I think, where's my granddad? I think on Side Away. He in the back. Okay, well, yeah. Yes, on Side Away. And that's a street off Kinsman. If you are into community, you know that the Sideway Bridge has just been named as a historic place on the registry. And I actually told my aunt that at the same dinner we're talking about. Yes. And that is the apartment it was an apartment building on Sideway where my family lived. And right across the street was a church, St. Teresa. It plays a big role in all of our lives, but I know it's probably not, something you would stop on Kinsman to look at. But there's a church there named St. Teresa. So, okay, let's press play. All right.
Okay, and so after my mom died and dad couldn't take care of us, It's a little incident happened with my sister and my brother Bernard. We was all close. He came over, and I had told him about the incident, and he was like, "You all are going home with us, with me." He took us home to his mom and dad on Saturday, okay, and told them what had happened and asked them could we stay with them. And they said yes. People don't do that anymore. Okay, if they ain't getting no money for you, you can't come. But they took us in, and that night, Mom Smith, she said, "We're family." She told the boys, "These are your sisters. This is how we became family."
So my Smith is my great grandmother. Bernard is my grandmother's younger brother. And I didn't know, I don't know how many years later, I won't even try to guess that number. I come into the picture and I'm introduced to all of my family, and my Auntie Deb is my Auntie Deb. My Auntie Deb was my first teacher. You'll read in the program that she had a child care, a home daycare center, where I learned how to read, write, talk back, I'm sure, and other things. But I remember her always telling me, like, you were always good at this. You were always good at that. And it was one of those earlier voices that reinforced my talents or my gifts. But no one ever told me that's not really your aunt. I didn't learn that for years. And rightfully so. And it doesn't change anything to me. But as we continue to talk, you'll learn more about why this story is just amazing to me. But what I didn't know was this first piece that she talked about. So let's run this back. You're born in Kissimmee. What do you know about your biological mother's death? Do you know?
All I know is that she died from diabetes. And what I'm put together in my mind, since I had a baby, most likely was that gestational diabetes. And back then, they didn't have the medicine and stuff that they have now, and she probably didn't even know she had it, so.
And so then you are adopted by your aunt and uncle, who you then call mom. So that's mom number 2. But then she passes away. And then your brother, my Uncle Bernard, and he's a big personality. That's why I keep saying Uncle Bernard like that. But Uncle Bernard comes and introduces you to mom number 3. Right. And so how does it feel to have 3 people now at age, 17, 18, that you now call mom or consider a mom?
Now at this stage in my life, it's awesome, and I thank God for them. Because one thing I realize is that you don't have to be my blood to be my family. God will provide. He said, "I will supply all your needs." And he supplied all my needs. I needed that mother. They were there at each stage of my life. My Smith was there till I was grown, graduated from high school. She made sure I graduated from high school. Got pregnant right after that, but I graduated.
Okay. Got speaking to the mic. So how did it feel to live under the roof? So my great-grandmother and grandfather had, my grandma was gone by then, right? I don't know where my grandfather is, but he's all the way in the back, but they were already married. My granddad and my grandma were already married. And so now there's 4 boys in the house?
Actually, there was 5, because Skeet was still there, too.
Okay, my uncle. Okay, it's my uncle's. So how did it feel to live amongst 5 young men in a house of a woman that wasn't your biological mother?
At first, honestly, it was scary. It was, and because I didn't know them. I knew Bernard, I knew my Smith, and Hap, but the rest of them, I had to get to know, but after I got to know them and got comfortable, they made me feel comfortable. They accepted me as their sister, then they start introducing me to their friends. This is my sister. Don't mess with my sister, it got easier.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you ever allowed yourself to wonder what life might have been like if your biological mother had lived?
All the time.
What
I
do you
was
think?
just talking about that the other day.
What do you think it would have looked like?
I really don't know. Because I don't know her. So I can't say how she would have taught me or led me. I really don't know.
So one of the things for me now that a lot of our family has passed, the things that come for me are the voicemails and the videos and things like that. But you don't have the benefit of that with your
Right.
mother.
Right.
So as a 2-month-old, you don't get to understand your mother's laugh or her face or, her voice. So how do you cope with that, or how do you reckon with that as you are now an adult?
Well, just like you said about you get jealous sometimes when you see people with their mother, I get jealous sometimes, when I see that with people, and I was like, wow, I wonder how it would have been with my mother, yeah.
So how old were you when you found out you were expecting your first child?
18.
18, okay. You were
Yeah.
fresh out of East Tech?
Yes.
Okay. The old
Yes.
East Tech?
The second one.
The new East Tech. The new old East Tech.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Hold on to the drink tickets. All right. They getting, the down the way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're 18, fresh out of East Tech, and you have a baby girl.
Yes, I had a baby girl.
What do you name her?
Shantina.
Shantina.
Shantina Charmaine Curry.
Okay. And where'd you get Shantina from?
I don't know. It just popped in my head.
Okay. That's honest. I
Yeah,
like it.
it just
Okay.
popped in my head
So, Shantina, would I want you to tell everyone, you consider yourself a single mother.
Yes, I was a single mother.
So, how was it to raise an infant at that time?
It was hard because I went from mom to being a mom. And I'm really still in my mind this young child. And it was hard. And then I was out on my own, I got in my own place and everything. And it's hard. And there's really no manual to tell you how to raise this baby, and I had times where I didn't have food. She ate, but I didn't. Until somebody told me, well, go down to this church and they giving out food, and I went, and then back in that day, the job I had, I made $2.36 an hour. That was minimum wage. Yeah, my rent was $300. Okay, so thank God for back then, you got food stamps and a check. Okay. Now they don't want to give you that. So I thank God he made a way. He made a way. It was hard. It was hard. And it could have been a little easier if I'd have called my family and asked them for help. But I guess pride, I didn't call, But I made a way, some kind of way. I made a way, through the grace of God.
Yes. So this is not my story, but our story is so interconnected, and everything. So I just hope you can let me take my liberties here.
Sure, go ahead.
So Shantina was 13 years older than me, or 12.
Something like that.
And Shantina was the closest thing that I had to a sister. I'm an only child, only grandchild. I don't even have first cousins. And so Shantina was like the teenager in my life. That was where I learned from Janae and Escape and SWV and all the line dances and all the Warrensville hot boys that she knew. She babysat me. I got to know them. It's still people to this day that are like, I know you. I'm like, yeah, you used to date my cousin. And what I understand is that before I was born, my mother treated her as if she was her child. And so Shantina was very upset when I was coming because,
Yes,
it stopped her gravy train.
Yep.
And so as you and Shantina grow together, because you're 18 when you have her, what is one thing that you grew to absolutely love about Shantina? What's that number one thing?
Oh, how she called me mother. She called me mother. And she would just come sometimes and just embrace me, just hug me. Because that was something I didn't get. And she would just come and just hug me. I love you, mother. You know, yeah.
So what was one of the biggest challenges in your relationship?
Oh, God, when she became a teenager.
We're at the winery. Drink your wine.
Yeah. And the rebellion set in, you know. That was the hardest time with her, you know. And then, you know, I wanted her to go to college, you know, but once she got into boys, college was out the window.
Well, she
Okay.
was fine. I do want to give my cousin her.
She
kudos.
was.
fine.
She was.
She was
She
fine.
was.
She was
Yeah.
fine. She
Yeah.
was fine. So
Yeah,
I can
she
understand.
was.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah, she
but
was built too.
She was built. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's fast forward. Shantina is in her late 30s. She is the mother of 4 herself now. So you're the grandmother of 4. And you find out that she's ill. So can you walk us through those early days of that news?
Yeah. I used to tell my daughter all the time, you need to go to the doctor. You know, so you have, my mother and them used to call it mother wit. And you know when something is not right with your child. And I used to tell her, Shantina, you need to go to the doctor. Okay, mother, I'm going. Okay, just blowing me off, you know. And then Uncle Miles brought it to my attention one day. He said, is Shantina pregnant? I said, I hope not. He said, she sure looked like it. And then that's when I started looking at her stomach. Her stomach started growing, okay? And then she started complaining about pain in her stomach. And I go to the doctor, Shantina, and every time I asked her, well, why are you hurting? She ate up all my ibuprofen. And she said, oh, I just got cramps. So I said, okay, well, you having cramps this often, you need to go to the doctor. Something is wrong. Okay? She never would go to the doctor. So what got her there, she had moved back home with me, and she came to me one day and she said, Mother, when I picked Nene up from the bus stop, I'm going to the hospital. She said, this knot in my stomach is getting so big and it hurts. I said, what knot? I was in the bed. I jumped up and I felt her stomach, and she looked like she was like 7 months pregnant. Okay. Got to the emergency, and they said it was a big mass. Sent her to UH main campus. Long story short, she wound up with gallbladder cancer, which is a very rare cancer. And that sunk me. It sunk me. And they said the tumor was this big, literally this big, all across the liver, gallbladder, intestines. And one thing about it, I thank God that she didn't suffer long. You know, and for 40 years, she came home for 1 week after the surgery. And my greatest joy from that, she told me, I was getting her some water to take her medicine. And she said, Mother, you've been a good mother. And June 9th, 2016, she went home to be with the Lord. So there I was with the 4 grandchildren. And I guess now I can have my time to grieve, because I never had time to grieve. You know, because I went from caring for her to her children. You know, so God made a way now that I'm free.
So I remember, I felt like it was unbelievable. You know, I remember my cousin saying, girl, I'm about to party. I'm turning 40. You know, I remember that being a conversation for her. And I think when we put her death notice out, it said 40 years young. And then it was the funeral information. And it went from like 6 months before, we're going to plan for this 40th birthday. And then you make it, her birthday was in April. She died in June. So she made it about 60 days past her 40th birthday. And I remember being shell shocked. Like, you know, you can watch someone wither away. You can know what's coming. But the actual call that this person is now gone, it felt very surreal. Yeah. And what do you feel you would want Shantina to know? She told you that you were a good mother. Were you able to tell her in her last months?
I told her that I loved her very much. She was a good daughter. She was a good child. She's will always be my baby. Always. I miss her so much, you know, but I thank God for the time that he allowed me to have with her. You know, she brought me a lot of joy. She brought me a lot of pain, too. I'm just going to keep it real. You know what I'm saying? She brought me a lot of pain, too, but it was more joy than pain, you know, and I thank God for that. I thank God for that experience. I thank God for the experience of being a mother, you know, and she was my only child. Yeah.
So we're going to give Auntie Deb a hand clap, but also it's a double clap because she's retiring in a month.